Right now, on to the point. Safety concerns following another attempted assassination of President Donald Trump.
That dynamic in our country is unacceptable.
Tonight, we hear from a Sacramento man who witnessed the chaos over the weekend. Voters closer to having a say in a proposed one-time tax on California billionaires, where the high-stakes fight now stands. A major break in a decades-old kidnapping and death of a Placer County mother. The technology that helped lead to an arrest. And new fears about surveillance pricing and whether airlines are charging you more based on your data history. The suspect who police say attacked the White House Correspondents' Dinner is now facing federal charges, accused of attempted assassination of the president. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. Investigators say 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen took a train from California to D.C. and was staying at the hotel, checking in on Friday. Thousands of people, including the president, vice president, and members of the administration, were in the ballroom at the Washington Hilton Saturday night when police say Allen stormed a security checkpoint. Allen did not enter a plea to the federal charges, including attempted assassination of the President of the United States.
Make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could.
There is now an investigation into the security breach that night and possible lapses. The White House now saying that they are reviewing security protocols ahead of more upcoming high-profile events. Now, people who attended the dinner call the scene chaotic and confusing. They say that they're grateful the Secret Service prevented the gunman from getting inside that ballroom. I want to bring in ABC 10's Becca Hotbegger, who actually spoke with a Sacramento area man who was there that night. She joins us right now.
Yeah, Alex, Matt Shoup is communications director and spokesperson for the California Republican Party. He also owns Praetorian Public Relations and was attending the White House Correspondents Association dinner with a client when the shooting happened.
The night of the White House Correspondents Association dinner started off exciting for Matt Shoup.
This was the most difficult thing for me to attend in my entire professional life. I've been working for 3 weeks to get a ticket.
The exclusive annual event is a who's who of Washington politics and media. The event was going well until servers started coming out with the main course.
Myself and other people thought that maybe one or two of these servers had collided or dropped their trays, and the sound that we heard was, the clattering of all the plates falling down.
What they heard was the gunshots and commotion outside the ballroom as the suspected gunman ran through security and fired his weapon. Inside the ballroom,
people started saying shots fired, gun, shooter, and everything like that. Their orders get on the ground. People kind of dived under the table. It was very chaotic. I think everybody was very confused on what was going on. There wasn't a lot of clarity because the shooter actually never made it inside the ballroom. So we didn't see or hear what happened.
I have thought for some time that Hilton in DC is a terrible place to do this. It is almost impossible to secure. You would have to buy out the entire hotel if you actually wanted it to be secure.
Eric O'Neill is a former FBI counterintelligence and counterterrorism operative. He points out the suspected gunman was a guest at the hotel who had checked in the day prior.
I don't think it would have taken too much to just get a list of everybody in the hotel before the event and maybe run some checks on the individuals. That may have actually brought some attention to the front about the shooter because it turns out that his family had turned him in a day or two earlier, or had at least called the police to say that we think that there's something going on here.
I'm familiar with the Washington Hilton. It's a big hotel. And I don't think they even thought through about the fact that there are people staying in there.
Democratic California Congresswoman Doris Matsui also expressed concerns about the venue and sadness about the violence.
I thought it was just awful. Every time something like this happens, it changes how we feel about things, and that's really unfortunate.
Still, she, O'Neill, and Shoup all praised the Secret Service for subduing the gunman.
They did not shoot at him, and instead they tackled him and restrained him. That showed an incredible amount of restraint for law enforcement and was probably the brightest success of this entire situation.
He sees this as part of a pattern of escalating political violence, especially against President Donald Trump.
I don't know if there's been a president who has had attempts on his life this many times. I think Trump might have the record.
Words have consequences. And that's the thing, is there are people out there that are mentally ill or just very active that take these as marching orders. That dynamic in our country is unacceptable.
He and O'Neill say this security incident supports President Trump's efforts to build a ballroom at the White House, though critics disagree.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune used this weekend shooting to renew his calls to fund the Department of Homeland Security. He blamed Senate Democrats for blocking a package that would fund the whole of DHS as Democrats hold out for reforms to ICE. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer rejected Thune's rhetoric, saying Thune should be directing his anger instead at House Speaker Mike Johnson, not Democrats. Alex?
The debate over a proposed wealth tax on California billionaires is growing more contentious tonight as supporters turn in signatures to try to qualify the measure for the November ballot. Opponents, many of them Silicon Valley elite, say that they are ready to start spending big. ABC 10 political reporter Jenny Ha breaks down the political battle.
That we have collected over 1.5 million signatures.
Over 1.5 million voter signatures of support for a proposed one-time 5% tax on California's over 200 billionaires, meaning this ballot initiative will likely qualify to be on the November 2026 ballot. The major announcement on Monday morning by the measure proponent, healthcare union SEIU-UHW.
Longer emergency room wait times, fewer healthcare workers, rural hospitals shutting down.
Supporters warning that's the looming threat facing California with a $100 billion funding cut to healthcare programs from the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Proponents say taxing billionaires on their net worth would make up for that by raising $100 billion over the next 5 years.
Can afford to invest a little more in keeping California running.
Now it's a battle for the minds of voters as opposition ramps up.
It's already done damage, even though it hasn't officially qualified yet.
The primary concern of opponents that the target billionaires would simply leave California, which David Lesperance, an advisor to ultra-high net worth clients throughout California, says has happened. Lesperance says 8 of his clients have left for Florida, Texas, and Nevada, and 10 are preparing to leave.
They're doing everything they can to fight the fire,
which includes lobbying and supporting opposition efforts, Lesperance says.
When businesses leave California, thousands of good paying jobs disappear, paychecks shrink, communities suffer.
Roger Salazar is with Golden State Promise, a political action committee created to oppose the wealth tax. To date, the PAC has raised $10 million from 2 major donors, from tech company Ripple Labs and billionaire Chris Larson, co-founder of Ripple, per state campaign filing records.
We're ready with an 8-figure statewide communications effort to educate voters.
Another opposition group is Stop the Squeeze, a PAC created after Governor Gavin Newsom spoke out against the wealth tax. And there are 3 ballot initiatives interpreted by many as countermeasures to the billionaire's tax. They would mandate portions of any new tax revenue go to schools and ban taxes on wealth rather than income, essentially aiming to limit how California can implement new taxes.
The concept of a wealth tax is an idea that's not ready for prime time.
Jenny Ha, ABC 10.
Both supporters and opponents of the billionaire's tax are expected to spend more money to sway voters. Final decisions about placing the measure on the November ballot will be made by June 25th. A lot to think about here. All right, still head on to the point. An arrest is made in a decades-old cold case mystery. A mother vanished from her home. Her body found weeks later. How technology was used to crack the case. And later, concerns that airlines are tracking your browsing to raise fares. The questions about so-called surveillance pricing.
And tomorrow, we're back near seasonal, mid-70s across the valley. Continued chances for showers in the high country, but it gets even warmer as the week goes on. I've got a full look at the forecast after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. The 10-week-old Department of Homeland Security shutdown is now the longest in history. Lawmakers are under increased pressure to pass funding as the agency is almost out of money. If funding does lapse again, more federal workers, including Secret Service agents, may miss paychecks. A man pleaded guilty today to a federal murder charge in the 2002 shooting death of rap star Jam Master Jay of Run DMC. Jay Bryant told a judge he helped other people get into a building so they could ambush the DJ in his recording studio. Bryant did not name the other people involved. 2 other men were convicted in 2024. And King Charles and Queen Camilla arrived in the U.S. today for their 4-day visit. They started the visit by having tea with President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump at the White House. The king will address a joint meeting of Congress tomorrow. British royals typically avoid discussing specific policies on foreign visits, but leaders in the UK hope it will help ease tensions between the nations on the war in Iran.
All right, let's get a check of our forecast with meteorologist Brendan Minchev. Brendan, I know you're tracking some rain in the Sierra, but before we get to that, it was super windy yesterday. Is that wind going to continue into the rest of the week? I just want to know so I can prepare my hairspray appropriately.
Yeah, how much hairspray? Need to order another one?
Yes.
No, not as windy the rest of this week. Quieter in general as the week goes on, but we're going to have at least one more day, if not 2, with some showers up in the Sierra. Otherwise dry in the valley. Really in the valley, there's not a lot of weather to talk about, except for the fact that we're going to be warming up back near seasonal and then above seasonal. But if you're headed into the foothills or towards Tahoe at any point this week, and the weather's slightly more active. Just, again, some showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm the next couple of days. But you can see where the focus of all this rain has been. It's been in the Sierra, it's been in the coastal range, and we really haven't seen anything in the valley. So, again, the story going to be warmer temperatures for the valley, but the next couple days, continued showers in the Sierra. 68 right now in Sacramento, 66 in Fairfield, 69 Stockton, 69 down in Modesto, 40s up near Tahoe. We were in the low to mid 60s all weekend long, so even current temperatures in the upper 60s warmer than where we were Saturday or Sunday. Starting off Tuesday morning at 48 in Sacramento, 46 in Stockton, 47 in Modesto, 44 Placerville and Jackson, 26 in Truckee, and 28 in South Lake Tahoe. We'll have a few clouds moving through overnight, but mainly sunny tomorrow, and temperatures back to where we should be. 76 the forecast high, the normal high, 76 in Sacramento, 76 in Stockton, 76 in Manteca, Modesto and Tracy as well, 75 Vacaville and Fairfield, 79 up in Colusa, 60s in the foothills, 50s up near Tahoe. And it gets even warmer by Wednesday. We're in the low 80s, some mid 80s by the time we get to the end of this week. Clouds moving through overnight, some continued light showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm in the high country tomorrow, and then a similar setup on Wednesday, but this model showing some drier conditions for midweek. April has been a pretty wet month. We know this. We're 2¼ inches above normal for the month in Sacramento, and this has really helped us out for fire season. Remember, for fire season, we were way ahead of schedule, but every time it's rained this month, it has helped push fire season back to where it should be. Warmer the next few days, dry in the valley, and more sunny as well. Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, California voters will decide this November on a sweeping change to how ballots are cast, the arguments from both sides. And a major expansion is on the way for a local casino, what's being planned, and how the push could change Elk Grove. Well, there has been a major break in a decades-old cold case out of Placer County. Investigators say they have arrested 64-year-old James Lawhead Jr. in connection to the 1991 kidnapping and murder of Sydney Warner. Now, authorities say that Warner disappeared from a home in Granite Bay. Her 11-month-old baby found alone inside her high chair. Her body was found weeks later in the Forest Hill area. Investigators say the suspect had a history of violent sex crimes and had been released from prison before the killing. After years of testing evidence, investigators say new DNA technology led to the match, identifying the suspect as James Lawhead Jr.
This was a very emotional one for me. I remembered this from the day it happened. This was one that everyone talked about.
There's been a lot of conversations since we got a DNA match on whether Mr. Lawhead was even alive. In custody within maybe 8 hours of identifying him was very fulfilling.
Lawhead was arrested in Arizona. He will be brought back to Placer County to face 1 count of murder with 2 special circumstances, one for rape and one for kidnapping, and could face life without parole or the death penalty if convicted. Dana Williamson, a former top advisor to Governor Newsom, may be headed toward a plea deal. Court documents show Williamson is set to appear Thursday unless a judge grants a delay while attorneys negotiate a possible solution. She faces 23 federal charges, including fraud and making false statements. Prosecutors allege Williamson illegally obtained PPP loans, falsified tax documents, and worked with others in Sacramento and Washington to divert funds from a dormant campaign account linked to Javier Becerra. A new bill aims to help first-time homebuyers. Let's take a look at it. The focus of Assembly Bill 1611, introduced by Democratic Assemblyman Matt Haney, is to discourage institutional investors from buying up too many single-family homes, which supporters argue make it harder for first-time homebuyers to compete.
It's already hard enough when you go and you're there and you're looking at a home and you're seeing if you can afford it. You're trying to get the down payment figured out. You're trying to work out the mortgage. And next thing you know, you're being required to compete with a Wall Street landlord that can pay straight cash and outbid you.
The bill will be heard in the Revenue Tax Committee. It requires a 2/3 vote, too, and that's because it results in a higher tax for certain taxpayers. Well, this November, California voters will vote on a measure that would change how future elections are conducted across the state. Something else we're following closely. The proposal would require voters to show a government-issued ID or provide the last 4 digits of an ID number before casting a ballot. It would also allow the state to issue voter ID cards. The measure comes even though there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud in California.
In-person voting, it's no different than going into the election polls and actually showing just your form of identification, like you have to do when you get on a plane, like you have to do when you get prescription drugs, like you have to do in order to open up a bank account.
Support has largely come from Republican lawmakers and supporters. Opponents say this could cause issues for people who are eligible to vote but don't have a current or valid identification. Now, this next story is very interesting. Are companies watching you shop online and using your personal data to fine-tune prices? That is the exact question some lawmakers and advocacy groups are asking after a deleted social media post from JetBlue, which seemed to suggest clearing your browser history might affect airfares. Reporter Michael Yoshida explains for us tonight.
Social media turbulence for JetBlue. A customer writing on X, quote, "I love flying JetBlue, but a $230 increase on a ticket after one day is crazy. I'm just trying to make it to a funeral." The airline replying, quote, "Try clearing your cache and cookies or booking with an incognito window. We're sorry for your loss." JetBlue deleted the post, saying in a statement it was a mistake and that the steps suggested would not have changed the airfares available for purchase. The airline also says it, quote, "does not use personal information or web browsing history to set individual pricing."
It's entirely a myth in the industry. Airline pricing changes so quickly, and I think that's just due to supply and demand.
The exchange igniting questions about surveillance pricing, using browsing history, spending habits, location, and other personal data to adjust prices for individuals. While the practice is broadly legal in the U.S., airlines, including JetBlue, say they don't do it.
The airlines are getting much better at dynamic pricing. That does not mean that they're tracking individuals, though. They're looking at trends, at pricing trends overall. So if there's a lot of people across a lot of geographies who are looking for the same flight you're looking for, then the price may go up.
Still, advocacy groups want more transparency on how prices are being set.
Companies are increasingly turning to new technologies to vary pricing. It's really a departure from 150 years of pricing in which there's been a standard price that we've all paid if we were buying the same item from the same retailer at the same time.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida.
A new hotel resort with entertainment space breaks ground today. The project expected to bring dozens of job opportunities. That's right after the break. A big expansion is coming soon to Elk Grove's Sky River Casino. The casino hosted a groundbreaking ceremony today to mark the start of its construction of its international-style hotel resort. The hotel will include 300 rooms, a day spa, and an event and entertainment space. The expansion will also bring approximately 200 new job opportunities, and it is scheduled to open late next year. Very exciting. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.